Hey y'all, it's go time with another flock of broilers here at Twin Oaks Family Farm, and it's been a beautiful day in rural Southeast Ohio, USA. It's October 19th, 2023, and it was a little over 70 degrees today, so beautiful. Last night it was 39 degrees overnight, so 70 degrees was awesome, but it's just started raining here. It's evening, and we're going up here to the little starter pen for the broilers. And this will be our last flock of 2023. We've now started with this group that came in, 1,350 Cornish rock cross meat chickens during 2023. So we will be looking ahead to 2024 and planning flocks, but this is the last group to come in for this year in our small commercial poultry production operation. So we ordered 100 for October 19th, 2023, and we had great news. They actually were hatched and shipped on October 18th, 2023. So they are here and doing well. We have 102 in this flock. We ordered 100, like I said, but usually get like a few extras in a box of 100. So they're doing really well. We're going to take a look right at the chicks and talk through how we went about unloading them and unpacking them and settling them into their pen. Also going to talk just a little bit about the amount of space that they have and what we anticipate during their production with stocking density, and just let you look at the chicks, try to get some close-ups of them, because this is when they're cute, and they're really only cute for probably 3 days. I think they're only cute for about 3 days, and then they start getting their mature feathers growing in, and we see that really initially first on their wings and then more toward like the front of the bird, and they feather in gradually over time. So they're really cute at first when they've just hatched. So we'll take a look. Also, we will talk about the heat lamps in here. So this is, you know, just an overall view kind of where they're at. They're in a portion of a shed that we can close up real snug. It's metal on the exterior. You can see that up there. Metal on the exterior and wood on the interior. So we can warm this space up pretty easily and pretty efficiently. We have put up supplemental heat lamps for this flock. So we chose to use 4 of them. We'll probably have to add heat lamps. Even though it was 70 degrees during the daytime today, we left the heat lamps on all day long. Chicks want to have an ambient temperature. They need an ambient temperature of about 95 degrees for about 10 days, 10 to 14 days. And actually, from just experience with raising Cornish rock cross meat chickens, we've learned that for the first 3 weeks, it's really critical to keep those temperatures about 95 the first week, and then 90 degrees when they turn week 1 to week 2, and then about 85 degrees when they turn week 2 to week 3. And our chickens, we're raising them out to about 6 weeks old. We're actually working toward, for 2024, working toward a 35-day production schedule. So that would mean raising them to 5 weeks old. But we've been raising them to 6 weeks old, and even at 5 and 6 weeks old, these kind of chickens need an ambient temperature around 70 degrees at that point. So this is not a type of chicken that is desirable to raise in cold weather. If you can raise them when the weather is slightly warmer, fairly warm, fairly mild, then if you need to add supplemental heat, you can do that pretty easily with maybe a few heat lamps. Or if you just have a place that you can confine into a pretty small area, sometimes you can even use less supplemental heat. But in general, the colder it is, then the more supplemental heat you need, and the more of a challenge it is to keep them thriving. And the reason that is so critical is because with these chickens, now what you would find, like if you have temperature stress that's heat and they overheat as chicks, that's just going to more or less be mortal for them immediately. But if you have chicks that experience temperature stress from being chilled in the first 3 weeks of their life, that's not going to be immediately mortal, but it is going to be terminally mortal down the line. Like, you're going to see it show up during week 4, week 5 in flock loss prior to processing, because this is, this is a meat production animal. So the end point is terminal. They're going to slaughter to be processed into poultry, but we want them to live to make it to processing. And if we have cold stress, if we have temperature stress that's from being too cold in the first 3 weeks of life, then that sets into motion heart failure that isn't going to keep up with the rapid accelerated growth of this type of chicken. And this typiness is from natural selective breeding. So if the heart doesn't keep up with the rapid growth, then when we get down the line of production into like week 4 and week 5, they can have heart failure. And that could all be set into motion from being too cold the first 3 weeks of life. So the good things we're seeing here is that we have chicks that are busy and active. We have chicks that are going to the waters. We have chicks that are going to the feeders to eat. We do have chicks that are resting, and all of that is normal. So far, we have 102 living out of 102 that moved in. So day 2, flock is still 100% thriving, so that's excellent. So when we move them in, we have the box here that they came in. I wanted to show you all that. So we have the box here that they came in. So 100 chicks came to us through the Postal Service in this box. And I'm going to show you what we do with it. Of course, with 100 chicks in it, it has a little heft to it, a little weight to it. So it's usually labeled on the outside what it was, and there was an invoice and some health papers and some care instructions in there, and they came through priority mail. So usually I can just get this to fold. Here, I need to turn it. So it has a little weight with them in there, but usually we can fold that up. So the box is divided with some dividers that are perpendicular to each other there into 4 corners, or 4, I call them quads. And they'll pack about 25 chicks into each quad, and 25 chicks fills this up. And they do that to keep them warm during shipping, is my interpretation of that, because with them packed in there closely and confined, they're producing enough body heat to help keep each other warm. So they're, in essence, functioning as external heat sources for each other, and they can't as individuals stay warm enough, but collectively, when confined like that, they can stay warm enough. And then these punch holes, some of them are punched out, but not all of them. See, all these could be punched out if needed, but some of them are punched out to allow for airflow so that they can breathe well. But we'd have this box here, and so I would do some planning with this, because one thing that would be important to me when I'm unpacking chicks is I would set my feet in one place, and I don't want to have to move them. So like I might move here where I can reach the box and reach a water, because what I wanted to do was take a chick out of the box in my hand like this and bring it over here and dip its beak in the water so it knows where some water is and is encouraged to get a drink of water, and then I would release it, and then I would immediately get another one, and I'd count all that as I unpack them. And I don't want to move my feet the entire time, because when you first unpack them, there's a real, I call it a scatter response, and they just dart, everywhere. And it seems like as they get used to us, there's no better baby chick magnet than the human foot. And it always feels like there's a tremendous risk of stepping onto one. But that's how we unpack them. And so when we put them into the pen, there's only waters down, heat lamps plugged in and turned on, and clean bedding on the floor. There's no feeders down at that time. I've mentioned previously, we like to move them in, let them get a drink of water. That helps get their digestive system functioning properly, and we want them to settle into the pen for a couple of hours and let the stress of transport and shipping dissipate before we introduce food. We want to let the stress dissipate and get water in their system so that their digestive system is kicking in and getting ready to go. So that's why we do that. And then about 2 hours after they have moved in, we put feed down. We start with these chick feeder trays without the tops on them. I've got the tops for those hanging there. So probably tomorrow, I'm probably gonna let them go one more day in the feeder trays without the tops on them, and then probably tomorrow we're gonna add the tops onto those trays. So we got that happening. So also wanted to mention, they are using the supplemental heat lamps. I don't have a group here that's really showing us very well. We know that ambient temperature is really perfect and right based on the chick's behavior. And these chicks are comfortable. I mentioned that as we kind of started looking at them. You know, we see them at water, at food, moving around. They're comfortable. But we want to see, and we can kind of see it here, you can kind of see the overall picture of like a circle around where this beam of light is hitting. And you can sort of see it there too, but we're starting to see them filter in under where that beam is more. And as the outside temperature drops, they are going to fill in more under where this set of heat lamps is actually sending warmth down. The light that it produces is kind of a visual cue for us of where they're feeling the warmth. And the idea with the heat lamps is basically to sort of create a blanket of warmth for the chicks. And we actually had these, see they're suspended from a rail up there. We actually had them spaced further apart, but I decided to put them closer together so that at least for this duo of lamps and this duo of lamps, there's not a dark spot in between like there is right here. And they're still going here and still using that water, but you can see we want the food and water under where that light is and that warmth is, because that encourages them to keep going to food and keep going to water. So we'll bring you back in here in this starter pen another time, but this is 102 Cornish Rock Cross meat chicks, and they have plenty of room here and they're doing well. We'll see you again back in the barn.